You're watching Channel 5.
From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. We begin tonight with presidential politics. President Bush was up in New Hampshire today because there were signs that Republican voters there may just be set to send him an unpleasant message in next Tuesday's primary. And Governor Bill Clinton of Arkansas, who spends virtually all of his time in New Hampshire now, is trying to convince the Democrats there that his message is being distorted. Today, Governor Clinton accused the president's party of misrepresenting his past. Here's ABC's Jim Wooten.
Governor Clinton angrily suggested that the president and Republicans are to blame for the leak of a letter he wrote in 1969 in which he declares his passionate opposition to the Vietnam War, praises conscientious objectors and draft resistors, but says he personally accepts the draft because he plans to work within the political system. The governor charged today that the letter, written from England in December of 1969, has surfaced now as part of an effort to damage his campaign by raising more questions about his past.
George Bush and the Republican Party will do anything it takes to win. That's what they did in 1988, and they'll do it again in 1992.
He offered no proof of any link between the letter and the president's campaign. He said he was told by ABC's Ted Koppel that it was Koppel's impression that the letter had come from someone at the Pentagon. But in fact, before talking with Koppel today, Clinton had already been shown a copy of the letter obtained by ABC News not from the Pentagon, but from this man, Clinton Jones. 23 years ago, Jones was second in command when Clinton entered, then left the University of Arkansas ROTC. Jones, a Democrat, says he took the letter from the files only because he was still angry at Clinton for breaking his promise to join the ROTC.
All I'm saying is that he signed a contract and did not honor it.
In the letter, Clinton concedes that he may have deceived the ROTC, not by lying, but by failing to say that he was a deeply committed anti-war activist. Barbara Howsam, an ROTC secretary back then, remembers his letter as an absolute bombshell and a breach of trust.
The person that we issued a draft deferment to was not a war protester. The person that we issued a draft deferment to was someone who was a scholar, someone who was a Rhodes Scholar.
Thank you. Clinton is fighting these days for his political life, trying to recapture the momentum he once enjoyed by blaming his problems on tabloids and Republicans with a new telephone number for those with questions about him or his campaign. Someone from Arkansas will return the call, and with paid half-hour television broadcasts tomorrow and Friday night. All across the country, state Democratic leaders are saying that the questions about Clinton's attitude toward the Vietnam War are hurting him significantly, especially among older Democrats, those with links to Korea and World War II, and among Vietnam veterans and their families. These are tough times for the governor. Jim Wooten, ABC News, Manchester, New Hampshire.
And it is surely another reminder of how America's turmoil in Vietnam clings to the national psyche. Governor Clinton was not alone in his opposition to the war then, nor in his agonizing before exposing himself to the draft. As ABC's Jeff Greenfield reports tonight, revisiting the Vietnam era is proving to be painful.
In one sense, Bill Clinton is a typical member of his generation. During the Vietnam era, more than 15 million young draft-age men, 3 and 5, were legally excused for military service. So why is this an issue for Clinton? Here's one reason, of course. Coming as it did, just as Clinton was trying to put the Gennifer Flowers charges to rest, the draft board controversy served as a more trouble for the front-runner story. That gave it added fuel and gave his rivals a handy club.
Quite frankly, I think the last thing that the governor needs now is another story coming out questioning his veracity or his character.
Tom Harkin has had his own Vietnam veracity challenged. He once claimed to have flown combat missions in Vietnam. He now says he was a Vietnam-era pilot, ferrying damaged planes from Japan to the Philippines. Senator Bob Kerrey, who won the Medal of Honor for his exploits as a Navy SEAL, openly doubts Clinton's story that he was rejected for officer status for physical reasons.
Now, maybe it was changed in '69, but in '66, if you could stand upright and walk in a straight line and eat with a knife and a fork, you could be a Navy officer, and I know, because I was one.
In fact, by 1969, with applications for officer status soaring, many candidates were indeed rejected for physical reasons. The Clinton story also plays against this background.
I did not know in 1969 that I would be in this room today, I'll confess.
In 1988, the press and the Democrats had a field day with Dan Quayle's story of how he had gotten into the National Guard during the peak of the Vietnam combat. There is simply no way now to dismiss a similar charge as irrelevant. But maybe the key to this issue lies here. For 40 years, America has had an unbroken succession of presidents who served in World War II. George Bush will almost certainly be the last of that era, where young men of